cream, answer some of the questions about the ingredients, the formulation, how it works, how to properly use it, and how to safely use it, and to get the results that you want. So without further ado, welcome Ben Fuchs to the show.
Hi, Grace. Nice to see you.
Yes, you too. I've had some questions because I've been training a lot of estheticians now on doing the professional bleaching cream treatment.
Okay.
And they're, wondering about the ingredients. And so you might just say, well, it's peptide. But can you tell us a little bit more? Oh, sorry about that. Can you tell us a little bit more about the oligopeptide 68 and the nonapeptide 1?
Yep, those are two synergistic peptides that work together to suppress melanin production, melanin being the pigment that makes things dark. Couple things. First of all, most skin lightening products utilize hydroquinone. You probably heard of hydroquinone. Hydroquinone is a very toxic substance. You wouldn't want to eat hydroquinone. It would probably make you very sick and could even kill you if you ate enough of it. And while it's true, putting it on your skin is not the same as eating it. Do you really want to put something that's that toxic on your skin? I don't think so. So when I created my pink wink with you, we talked about it. I told you I wanted to do something that didn't have hydroquinone on it. Hydroquinone is toxic. Just putting it on your skin, it's cytotoxic. And that's why if you're using hydroquinone products, they tell you to always make sure that you only use them for 3 or 4 weeks and then you stop. Because hydroquinone can cause a permanent toxicity of the cells that make the pigment, causing permanent lightening. So what I wanted to do is come up with a way of lightening the skin that didn't utilize hydroquinone. And that's why I came up with those two peptides. Those two peptides have the same effects as hydroquinone, but they're not cell toxic. Cytotoxicity means cell toxicity. And the two peptides work synergistically to suppress melanin production at the level of the melanocyte, that is the cell that makes the melanin. One of them acts to suppress melanin production via tyrosinase inhibitor, via tyrosinase inhibition. Tyrosinase is the enzyme that makes melanin. And another works at the level of what's called melanocyte stimulating hormone, or MSH. And that's just technical mumbo jumbo. You don't really need to go too deep into that. The fact is that they work extremely well, and you can use them daily. Unlike hydroquinone, where you have to take time off, you don't have to take time off with my pink wink. You can use them right through. Now, in addition to the peptides, there's also vitamin C in there. And the vitamin C has its own skin lightening properties and also has conditioning properties as well. So you'll get health benefits for the anal tissue as well as skin lightening. I should also tell you, it's kind of interesting how the anal area will get pigmented. You ever wonder why that happens? Why it gets dark? Like, what's that about? Isn't that interesting? Well, it turns out that melanin is actually part of the body's stress response system. And skin darkening is one of the ways the body responds to stresses, and one of the ways the cells respond to stresses. So any areas in the body that get a lot of rubbing, a lot of friction, a lot of stretching will have extra melanin, and pigmentation can result from excess rubbing or friction on an area that's got a lot of melanin. So the genitals will have extra melanin, the nipples will have extra melanin, and the anal area will have lots of melanin, will have extra melanin as well. People know if they have hyperpigmentation or hyperpigmentation issues, that sometimes after they get a cut or a scrape or abrasion or a pimple, when the skin heals, it'll heal pigmented a little bit. That's called post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. And that's a condition that happens not to everybody, but to people who are susceptible. And again, that's a result of irritation or inflammation causing pigmentation. So the anal area obviously gets a lot of friction, a lot of rubbing for various reasons. And so it will become pigmented. Another thing that causes pigmentation, especially that's related to age, is insulin, diabetes, and insulin resistance. And if you're pigmenting excessively, that can be a sign that you may be insulin resistant. That is, your body is not listening to insulin. Your cells are not listening to insulin. So your pancreas has to make more and more insulin so your cells listen to it. And that's called insulin resistance. And the elevated levels of insulin that are secreted in response to this resistance phenomena can be associated with pigmentation. So it may be that if you notice that you're pigmenting, either anally or anywhere else, excessively, that could be a sign that your body's starting to become insulin resistant, which may be something that you want to start to deal with from a dietary and a supplemental perspective. it's not like insulin resistance directly causes pigmentation, but it's associated with it. And we know that people who have insulin resistance or are secreting lots of insulin tend to pigment more. So if you notice that that's happening, it might be that may be a signal that you want to start to correct your diet, lose some weight, use supplements like chromium, vanadium, and the B complex, and treat yourself systemically in terms of nutritional supplements and dietary strategies.
Yeah. Now, is there any benefit to eating vitamin C, like topically? Does it?
Well, not so much for the melanin, but for the insulin and overall health. It's always a good idea to use vitamin C anyway. Vitamin C is such a great supplement. I should also tell you cortisol, stress hormone, can also increase melanin and pigmentation. So if you find yourself with insomnia, or you get up in the middle of the night, you can't fall asleep, or you're jittery, or you bend down and stand up and you feel a little dizzy or woozy, or you're addicted to coffee, and you find that you're pigmenting in association with those symptoms, you may have some cortisol issues. You might want to start working on those. And there are supplements that you can take for cortisol, essential fatty acids, vitamin A, vitamin E, again, keeping your sugar down and stabilizing your insulin. These are all great strategies for reducing cortisol. So, and vitamin C also helps with cortisol. So there's lots of internal nutritional and systemic strategies, nutritional supplemental strategies, and dietary strategies that you can use to support anti-pigmenting. Vitamin C isn't going to directly lighten your skin taking it orally, but because it will help you with your cortisol and help you with your insulin and help with overall health, it may have a benefit for lightening the skin or preventing hyperpigmentation.
Okay. And then also the vitamin C, like when I give people their ingredient card, the vitamin C is kind of hard to find, right?
Yeah, it's ascorbyl tetraisopalmitate.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, there's vitamin C most vitamin C is ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is the standard vitamin C. It's the cheap vitamin C, and it's okay to take ascorbic acid supplementally. If you want to start supplementing vitamin C, you get some ascorbic acid powder, or you can use ascorbic acid capsules or tablets, because ascorbic acid is pretty well handled by the digestive system. Ascorbic acid is water soluble. That means it dissolves in water. Put your ascorbic acid in water, it'll dissolve. You drink it down. It'll go into your stomach and then go into your intestine, and then it goes very easily from the intestine into the bloodstream. Now, that's fine internally, but topically, ascorbic acid is very unstable. It breaks down quickly. It breaks down in formulations themselves. This is why many vitamin C formulations will turn brown right in the bottle or right in the tube over the course of time, because that vitamin C breaks down readily in the presence of liquid. I wanted a stable form of vitamin C, and not only a stable form of vitamin C that would stay stable in the product, but also a vitamin C form that was soothing and that was moisturizing and that transferred into the lower levels of the skin from surface or topical application very easily. Ascorbic acid doesn't do that, but fatty vitamin C, that is ascorbic acid that's attached to a fatty molecule, we say lipophilic vitamin C or fat-soluble vitamin C as opposed to water-soluble vitamin C. Number one, is stable, never breaks down. Number two, it's soothing and it's moisturizing. And number three, and perhaps most importantly, it penetrates through the skin surface. And it may not look like there's a surface on the in the anal area. It may not look like there's layers, but there are. The surface of the skin is not where the pigment is. The pigment is lower, or the pigment is manufactured, I should say, lower. And if you really want to get that vitamin C to work at the level of the pigment-making cells, which are lower, the lower levels of the anal area, you've got to have some kind of a vitamin C that will penetrate through the surface. And that's what fat-soluble vitamin C does. Water-soluble vitamin C doesn't do that. And that's true not just about the anal area, but if you're using vitamin C on your skin and you want to lighten your skin, depigment your skin with vitamin C, or you want to get benefits for the fibroblasts, which are the collagen-making cells, excuse me, that live lower in the skin, you've got to use fat-soluble vitamin C. So ascorbyl tetraisopalmitate, some people will also call it tetrahexyl decalascorbate or THDA, they're synonyms for the same molecule, and those are fat-soluble or lipophilic forms of vitamin C. They're much more expensive than ascorbic acid, but they're well worth it, because not only do you get, as I say, soothing and moisturizing, not only do you get stability, they don't oxidize, but you also get penetration through the surface of the skin, whether it's on your face or on your anus, and it will affect the lower levels where the melanin is produced in the skin, the lower levels of the epidermis and the dermis, and same thing with the anal area.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of on the face, like one thing that I've noticed brings out the pigment. So even if I reduce it for the client, it seems like as soon as they get some sun exposure, the pigment comes to the surface again.
Sun exposure on the face?
Yeah, like if I get rid of the spots with like the chemical peels or the
They'll come
pigment
back.
cream, then they come back with
Absolutely. Yeah, all of these topical strategies are only temporary.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got to do the nutritional supplements, the diet, the taking care of your insulin, taking care of your cortisol, because as long as you're systemically, that is internally unbalanced, that is the melanin is destabilized, the melanocytes, I should say, are destabilized, and they're making pigment for a hormonal reason, that is because of insulin or because of cortisol, because they're somehow destabilized, the pigment is going to come back. So topical strategies are only temporary. The pigment will come back, so you got to keep applying your products topically, and I should say, you want to take care of your internal biochemistry with dietary strategies and also nutritional supplements. And then in terms of cortisol, relaxation techniques, meditation, slow deep breathing, massage. There's all kinds of ways to relax the body. Learning to relax the body is just a great anti-aging strategy in general, but because it has a wonderful, relaxing the body has a wonderful cortisol lowering effect, you can also reduce some of the symptoms of excess cortisol. And pretty much all not just pigmentation, all accelerated aging symptoms, from issues with brain health to issues with organ health and problems with inflammatory conditions or adrenal conditions or female hormone conditions. A lot of them, if not all of them, are related to excess cortisol. So when you use these relaxation strategies, not only will you be helping your pigmentation and reducing hyperpigmentation, you'll also be anti-aging and improving overall health.
Okay. Yeah, so I can tell that you definitely have a passion for the nutrition side of the body.
Yeah, I love the topical, but I'm a healthcare professional at the end of the day. So I want to take care of I want my patients or people I'm working with to take care of their overall health, not just the area that you see the problem. This is one of the hallmark themes of what's called holistic medicine or systemic medicine. And that is the idea that where you see the problem is not where the problem began. And if you try to treat the problem where you see the problem, you're not going to be addressing where it began. That is the cause, and the problem is going to keep coming back. So sure, we want to, there are cosmetic reasons to use anal bleaching cream. There's cosmetic reasons to use skin lighteners. There's cosmetic reasons to use moisturizers or anti-aging products or do peels, etc. But from an overall health perspective, where you see the problem is not where the problem begins. So if you want to take care of the health of the body and you really want to address the problem permanently, you got to go back to the root. It's like a tree. If you see a fungal infection on leaves, or you see some kind of problem with the fruit, you're not going to take care of the problem by addressing the leaf or addressing the fruit. You got to address the trunk, you got to address the root, and you got to address the soil. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with the skin. You've got to address, or the body. You've got to address the soil. You've got to address the root. You've got to address where the cause is if you want to permanently address the problem, if you want to effectively address the problem. Not that there aren't things that you could do temporary, and not that there aren't things you could do from a cosmetic perspective. And of course, because the skin is exposed, everybody's seeing our skin, there are times when you want to treat the skin superficially and cosmetically. But as you point out accurately, the problem's going to come back if you don't address it at the causal level.
Yeah. And that actually just reminds me of a client that just came in this last week, and she had dark pigmentation, but she was able to resolve some of it by not shaving. So she's like on her underarms and her bikini line, instead of shaving, she started to use a little trimmer. And just by not having that friction, she was able to reduce pigmentation.
That's post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. The friction itself will cause melanin to oxidize. Melanin is a really cool substance. It's electromagnetically active. Think about how it works. Typically it works by deactivating the sun's rays, photonic energy, photons from the sun, and it deactivates them with this really cool electrical mechanism. It transduces light energy into electrical energy and then disperses it out as heat. And this makes in order for this to happen, the molecule itself has to have some really interesting electromagnetic properties. And indeed it does. But in addition to the sun, there's also stressors that will induce pigmentation. And that's where your post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation comes from. That's where stretching kinds of things come from. And obviously the anal area has to stretch a lot. If you have a bowel movement, there's a lot of stretching that happens. And also where stress hormones will activate melanin. So melanin is a stress response molecule. And while we tend to think of it as only being a skin phenomena, melanization, there's melanin inside your body. You can get melanomas inside your body. Jimmy Carter famously got melanoma in his brain. There's no sun going on in the brain, but obviously, but there are stressors, electromagnetic stressors going on in the brain, and neuromelanin or neurological melanin is a major cause of melanoma, internal melanoma, and it's a major source for melanin in the body. So melanin is much more than just a skin chemical. It's an electromagnetic anti-stress molecule that's found throughout the body, inside as well as outside.
Mm. Now, the term melanin and pigment, are they interchangeable, or is it the pigment aside of a
pigment? Melanin is one of the pigments. There are other pigments. There's another pigment, I don't want to digress too much, but there's another pigment in the body. It's called aging pigment. And that's technically known as lipofuscin. Have you ever heard of this? Lipofuscin is, you ever notice how sometimes people will get pigment in their skin and they'll try skin lighteners and they'll try peels and they'll try everything they can think of to get rid of it, but it won't go away. It won't even budge. It won't even lighten. And this kind of pigmentation has a geographical appearance. It'll look like a map, sort of, and it's kind of brownish, very light brown. That's not melanin. That's lipofuscin, and that is not the same thing. That's a completely different pigment. That's more of cell debris. When cells die, there's waste products that are left over, or when cells are doing a lot of work, there are waste products that are created. And under ordinary circumstances, these waste products are drained out of the body via the lymphatic system. But over time, as we get older, as we're unhealthy, or if cells are dying off too fast, or they're making lots of waste products, the lymphatic system can't handle all that waste. And some of these particles, these aging particles, deposit in various tissues. They can deposit in the eyes, or they can deposit in the nerves, or they can deposit in the skin. And when they deposit in the skin, we see them, and they look kind of distressing, and people will try all kinds of mechanisms to get rid of the pigment because they confuse melanin, which is responsive to hydroquinone and retinol and various peptides and vitamin C, etc., with lipofuscin, which is not responsive to those remedies. For lipofuscin, you got to work on your lymph. You got to move the lymphatic system, and you got to work on overall health issues so that your cells aren't dying off as fast. And there's lots of strategies for moving the lymph. You can exercise, slow deep breathing, lymphatic massage, lymphatic drainage, hot and cold showers or hot and cold plunges. You ever see people they'll jump in a hot tub and then they'll jump into a cold plunge and back in a hot tub, back in a cold plunge. That's a wonderful anti-aging strategy because that helps move the lymph, jumping up and down a rebounder. There's lots of ways to move your lymphatic system, and then slowing down the death of cells, keeping them healthy or longer with ordinary health strategies, dietary strategies, nutritional supplement strategies, reducing cortisol, reducing insulin, all the health strategies that we talk about. So you want to distinguish melanin from lipofuscin. If you notice that you're pigmenting, especially on the hands, a lot of folks will get them on their hands or sometimes on their legs, these lipofuscin patches. If you want to get rid of that, you got to distinguish it, make sure you're not dealing with melanin, that you're dealing, or not dealing with lipofuscin, you're dealing with, or distinguish whether you're dealing with lipofuscin or melanin. And they both require two different strategies for their elimination.
And that kind of reminds me of birthmarks. Like, is it?
Now, birthmarks are a little different. Birthmarks are melanin. Birthmarks are pigment, but they're a type of pigment that is more firmly attached to cells. They're not going away. There's two types of melanin. There's a melanin that you're born with. That's the kind of birthmarks or freckles, or another type of this kind of permanent melanin that has bonded itself permanently to cells that isn't going away. So you're not going to really be able to lighten freckles or a birthmark with a chemical. You can do it with a laser. You can kind of burn them off, but it's very difficult to get rid of those with ordinary chemical strategies, ingredient strategies, because they're located deeper in the skin and they're also very attached to cells. But the kind of melanin that we're talking about that's more temporary, that's in response to stress or in response to the sun, that you can get rid of much more easily with peptides or hydroquinone or vitamin C.
Okay. Well, that's perfect, Ben, especially getting into summer, the underarms are going to be showing. I noticed like a
Yes.
lot of people use the pink whipped cream on their underarms. And then
Yeah.
the bikinis nowadays are getting tinier and tinier. So, it's going to be good to get that bleach cream to lighten the butt crack area and whatever.
You must see some tiny, tiny bikinis down there in Florida.
Yes, yeah. Just look out on the beach and it's like, wow, when did they get so small?
Like, what's the point?
The new style, I guess. Yeah.
What's the point of having anything?
I know, they might as well go nude at this point.
Right?
Uh, so, well, thank you so much. I think that's
Thank
going to be
you.
really helpful, especially for the professional estheticians watching this and determining what pigment they can treat and how to treat it.
Right.
And then
Distinguishing the Lipofuscin from melanin.
yeah, and I liked how you also talked about the difference of hydroquinone that you have to take breaks from, but with the My Pink Wink cream, you can use it every day.
Yeah, you can use it twice a day.
Twice a
And the
day.
more you use it, the more effective it will be. With hydroquinone,
Okay.
you got to take breaks. And there's a lot of, also I should add, there's a lot of really ineffective topical skin lighteners. I find them to be ineffective. Kojic acid, for some reason, I don't know why people even use kojic acid. It's just so ineffective. I don't want to, step on any toes. Anybody's using kojic acid or selling kojic acid, but I found that to be hardly any benefit at all. And that's one that I see a lot of.
Yeah, and as a professional too, we wanted something really effective. Like, that's what the clients are paying for. Sometimes they're paying, $200-$300 for a service like this, and so we want to make sure they're getting results.
Right, and that's this is our 11th year now. Do you realize that with Pink Wink?
Oh my goodness.
We sold a lot of Pink Wink.
Yep, and now with the esthetician selling it, it seems like it's just flying off the shelf. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have to get together again, and I'll just say goodbye and stop the recording. But I'm gonna